Well, today or maybe yesterday by the time you're watching this, because there's a million things to cover for Transformers right now and I can't keep up. But yeah, today Hasbro was at New York Toy Fair and they had a huge, hours long, live streamed presentation on all their biggest toy brands. And in the Transformers segment of it, we finally got our first look at the upcoming Transformers War for Cybertron Siege cartoon, coming to Netflix this year. Still no release date for the show, no info on if they're going to be releasing it in one big bingeable season like Netflix usually does, or if they'll be staggering each episode out on a weekly basis like certain other newer streaming services like Disney Plus are doing with their big new original shows. Honestly, I hope it's the latter, because let me tell you, having a ton of new Cyberverse episodes dumped on me all at once to review is just crazy. I'm working my butt off trying to get each episode review out there for you to enjoy as soon as possible. Plus there's all this other toy news, but enough about me and my woes. So I keep wanting to call it a panel, but it's not a panel. It's more like one of those E3 presentations. So in the presentation, F.J. DeSanto, who is the executive producer on the show, dropped a little bit of a spoiler about what the plot of the show is going to be. So if you want to leave out all spoilers, well, what are you doing watching this video or the trailer itself for that matter? But if you don't want to hear this spoiler, just skip ahead a few minutes. Maybe I'll put a timestamp on the screen if I remember. So apparently the plot of this series will involve Megatron trying to use the Allspark to turn the Autobots into Decepticons. So in turn, Optimus and the Autobots are trying to take the Allspark off-world so Megatron can't use it. But doing so will kill the planet. So obviously this plot sounds a lot like that of the Transformers Cyberverse series. If Megatron gets the Allspark, he'll use it to conquer Cybertron and turn everyone into Decepticons. If Optimus succeeds, they won't be turned into Decepticons, but Cybertron will die. Kind of a double-edged sword. Personally, I think I'd go with being a Decepticon and save the planet. FJ also mentions that he's glad to have been working on such classic characters, and he lists a bunch of the usual big names, like Bumblebee, Ratchet, Starscream, Shockwave, but then he says Sound Blaster. Not Soundwave, not Blaster, but Sound Blaster. It could have just been a slip of the tongue. He did seem pretty nervous speaking in front of a large audience, even though he is the producer on the show. Or maybe he did mean Sound Blaster. There was a Siege Sound Blaster toy. Maybe he's a separate character from Soundwave in this show, because we do see Soundwave in the trailer. He also mentions how they worked with Hasbro and used the actual CAD models that Hasbro uses to make the toys, and they used them to make the animation models for the characters in the show. So when you see them transform, they'll transform exactly like the toys do, and it'll be one-to-one accurate from what you see in the toys to what you see in the cartoon. Also, in case you didn't know, even though this show is being done in partnership with Netflix and Rooster Teeth, the actual animation is being done by Polygon Pictures in Japan. They were the animation studio that did Transformers Prime and Robots in Disguise. So we already know that they can do some top-notch animation, and we don't have to worry about the show looking like it was done by a bunch of underpaid interns. He says that they even have some people who worked on the '86 movie, which is really interesting because at first I thought maybe he was still talking about animation, but then I remembered at TFCon DC, Vince DiCola was there and he had heard about this Netflix show, and he was asking the fans if they thought it would be cool if he did some of the music for this new Transformers Netflix show. And of course, everybody loved that idea. But now I'm wondering, maybe he is working on it, and he just couldn't tell us because of NDAs and stuff. And who knows, maybe Stan Bush is working on it too. You never know. So that would be really cool if true. For the cast, at this time, I can confirm that Jason Marnocha and Frank Tadaro are back playing Megatron and Starscream. They played those characters in the previous Prime Wars trilogy, and they did a pretty good job. I especially like Jason's Megatron. He was probably the best thing about that series. Joe Zayaya, apologies if I get any of these guys' names wrong. I'm horrible with pronunciations.
Hey everyone, my name is Joe ZJ. And I've just got one thing to say that I never thought I would get to say in my entire life. I'm Bumblebee.
Joe is playing Bumblebee in the series. Now, I've never heard of him before, but apparently he's done a lot of voice work, with some of his top roles being Claude in Fire Emblem Three Houses, and Fox McCloud himself in Star Fox Zero. Although we don't really hear him in the trailer other than maybe a grunt, Brooke Chalmers will be playing Impactor, another voice I'm not familiar with, but he has been in some anime that I am familiar with, such as One Punch Man and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So good to see, or at least hear, another new voice. Another voice we do hear in the trailer is that of Lindsay Russo, who is playing Alita 1. She's another voice I'm not super familiar with, but she seems to do a good job in the trailer. And if you've ever played Fallout 76 as a female, she is the voice of your player character, so that's pretty cool. And that's all the cast I could find for now. So without further ado, should I get on with analyzing the trailer? As the trailer opens, we hear Ultra Magnus talking to Optimus. I couldn't find who voices him, but he sounds alright. He's obviously not trying to do a Robert Stack impersonation or something, but he sounds reasonably enough like Ultra Magnus. Next, we have Megatron speaking to a crowd in what looks like a coliseum. Obviously, there will probably be some gladiatorial combat, which Megatron is known for. And like I previously mentioned, Jason is reprising his role from the Machinima series, and he's doing a killer job here. We then see Ultra Magnus, wearing a cloak, approaching the Coliseum, which is guarded by two Seekers. He really reminds me of Armada Scavenger here, big chunky Autobot wearing a cloak. Then Ultra Magnus is inside the Coliseum approaching Megatron, who's behind what looks like the table from The Last Supper. Here we can see Soundwave, Shockwave, Barricade, Megatron, Skywarp, Starscream, and Jetfire. Yes, so it seems that, at least in the beginning of the series, which I'm guessing is when this takes place, Jetfire will start out as a Decepticon and then turn and become an Autobot, kind of like in G1. It's also kind of cute that Starscream and Jetfire are right next to each other, homaging the fact that they were best friends before the war in the original series. It's also funny that Starscream is kind of hiding behind Jetfire and Skywarp, almost like he's using them as human or robot shields just in case anything goes down, suggesting his cowardly nature. This is followed by a shot of Jetfire using what looks like a energy sword, as he slices through Starscream's arm and cuts his hand off. This is Transformers, right? And not Star Wars? Looks like he's defending Bumblebee and Wheeljack, and I'm guessing this is where Jetfire turns good. We have a shot of Sideswipe and Hound running, a shot of Barricade and Chromia fighting, followed by a shot of Impactor wearing a Decepticon badge, along with a couple Reflector twins, getting crushed by a falling building or something, with Hound rolling out of the dust. We get a few more action shots before we eventually get to a grand entrance by Optimus Prime, which feels somewhat reminiscent of this scene in Transformers the movie. This is when we first hear Optimus speak.
Cybertron needs freedom.
I really want to say that it's the epic voice guy John Bailey back doing his voice, but he just sounds a little bit different. Maybe he is doing something different for this series, or maybe it's just not him. Then we got some other action shots until we get to Bumblebee, voiced by Joe Zaya, talking to Optimus Prime. He sounds great as Bumblebee. Nothing to complain about here unless you really wanted Dan Gilvezan back or something.
You're fighting to win, and that's gonna get you all killed.
This is followed by a shot of Chromia and Cog riding on the back of Optimus Prime's truck mode, and Cog looks to have a huge chunk blown out of his torso. We then have a shot of Sideswipe using what looks like a combination of weaponizer parts from Cog and Six Gun, so that'll be interesting to see how that works in the show. Some more action shots, one of which, if you look really close, you can see Optimus is fighting flywheels, followed by Alita 1 talking.
This was not the life I imagined for us.
She sounds pretty good too, and then we get a few more action shots, including one of Optimus knocking over flywheels, and that's it for the trailer. Overall, I think it looks fantastic. The animation is leagues better than what we got in the Machinima cartoons. And it's interesting that Netflix titles this Transformers series as an anime. Okay, I don't really see how this can be called an anime when anime usually has a certain style to it. Is it because Polygon Pictures is located in Japan? If anything, I'd say this show has a slightly Borderlands style to it. Speaking of video games, one of the few negative comments I've seen about this trailer online is the common complaint is that it looks like a cutscene, which I can see what they're talking about, but I honestly don't mind. Heck, some of my favorite stories have been told through video game cutscenes, so it really doesn't bother me. There's only a couple things that do bother me about this trailer. First is all the very Overlord-esque kissy lips on all the Transformers. I noticed it right away and it was kind of distracting. I don't know, it always looks weird when you see such clearly defined lips on Transformers. It's kind of like Sonic with teeth. And the other thing is that Optimus' faceplate doesn't move when he talks. How hard is it to make his faceplate bob up and down as he talks? You can even write a simple expression to have the computer do it for you. That's what I do. See, here's my little face, and the faceplate is moving up and down as I'm talking. I don't know what they use to animate this show, but they have to animate the mouse to the voices anyways. Why not Prime's faceplate? But yeah, I am very much looking forward to this series. And I actually hope it comes out later rather than sooner because I have a ton of Cyberverse and RescueBots Academy reviews to catch up on. Plus all the toy news that is coming out of Toy Fair this weekend. It's a lot of work. I'm glad this wasn't like one of those E3 press conferences where they finish it with saying, "And it's out now." I think I would have cried if that happened. Lots to do before my big TFCon Orlando vacation. And who knows, now that we know some of the voice actors who will be in the show, maybe TFCon will invite some of them to be at the convention. Alright, as always, let me know what you thought of this trailer. Are you looking forward to the series? Can it really be called an anime? Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and all that other fun stuff. And I'll see you next time for more Transformers news and reviews.